a pelican's flight. Dear Fairhope, Alabama, my heart is yours.
Welcome to our Fairhope Simultax Corporation lecture series. This is one of the 4 big jobs that we do. We're all volunteers, and I want to introduce some of the members that are here. I'm going to ask them to stand. Margaret Neely, Debbie Hackbarth, and our current leader, Jim Estes. Thanks, guys. Did I miss anybody? And Alan Samery, he helps us a lot. So this is a subject that's very passionate to people that live in Fairhope. That bay, and I just stepped outside, and there's a beautiful sunset over the bay, and it's just wonderful. And these 2 guys, Clean Water Alabama, is trying to clean it up. So this is John Manellis. He's lived here 11 or 12 years? 14 years. Yeah, and he's been passionate about this bay. He started out as a cop in Houston, then he moved to head of security and crisis management for BP, and so we
did have a crisis that needed managing.
So he led Clean Water from the beginning. We had lots of meetings, and we had lots of different people join and contribute. So thanks, John. And this is John Woods. Most of you know John. He's also very passionate about the bay and the water. John is head of Penster.
No, not anymore. Yeah.
Alan's ahead.
No, something. We're both ex-heads. Yeah, we've been there.
They're switching. But John's from California. He's well known out there too, and he's moved here to Fairhope. He's written 8 books, and he's published 352 books. About. So, but both these guys are going to make a great presentation, and then after we get done talking, there'll be some questions. Grace, I'm glad you came. Just stand right there for a minute, and then you can sit down. I'm going to sit there. This is Grace Roberts. She's the one that has made all of our education material come alive. She's a fantastic illustrator, and these 2 guys give me an idea and want me to write something, and then I just write it and give it to Grace, and sometimes I give her an idea what we want, and sometimes all of a sudden, she's like magic when she starts illustrating, and I think you're going to see a lot of that today. So, John?
So John is going to start.
Well, thank you, Wayne.
John, you got to use the mic.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, sorry. Of course, Wayne was one of the co-founders of Clean Water Alabama, as was John and myself, and several of you in the room, Mike and Margaret, and several other people have been involved. Mike Dudley, who's been the treasurer from the beginning. I recognize almost all the faces in here. If I don't come up with your name, I apologize. I'll blame that on old age. About the past 14 years, just about every morning when I wake up, I grab my iPhone and look at the Weather Channel app, and I look at which direction the wind's blowing, and I look at how strong the wind's blowing. I then go into my living area, turn the TV on, turn on the app for YouTube, type in Fairhope Pier Cam. I get a nice big view of what the bay's looking like in the morning. If it's calm, as it was this morning, I'll put my paddleboard in the flatbed of my truck and drive 2 blocks down to the pier. As my friends here are walkers, they see me down there a lot. And put in just south of the pier and then paddle out beyond the end of the pier. And for those of you that have never had that experience, once you get out past past the end of the pier, the bay opens up. All the man-made structures and things jetting out, all the smaller piers, it just is behind you. And you see this vast, beautiful bay to the left and the right. And then you see this beautiful sky that meets the bay. And it just has almost a spiritual effect on one. You know, all the clutter of man-made creation is behind you. I very often see pods of dolphin coming by very close to me. Mullet jumping out of the water in schools. The flight of the pelicans, which just always fascinates me. They fly in unison, sometimes just this far off the water. A few days ago, I saw a fish. I don't fish, so I don't know I don't know one from the other. But it was just, I'm not kidding, it was that long. It looked like a barracuda to me. I know there's no barracuda in the bay. But it has, it really drives home how much the bay means to me and how much I know it means to each one of you, as well as our waterways. And I'm sure that's why most of you have come here this evening, because you have an interest in making sure that we preserve the bay. I see some of you walk each morning down at the bay. You may sail, you may boat, you may jog along the bay, you may take your kids or grandkids down. We are so blessed to have this beautiful resource, as well as Fish River and Magnolia River, and if you go out farther east, Perdido Key, and all the tributaries that eventually go into the Gulf. Sir. So approximately in April 2021, Clean Water Alabama was officially formed as a 501c3 nonprofit, and this was our mission. The mission was to engage citizens, government officials, and businesses to take necessary actions to protect and preserve Alabama's water resources. And Joe Faust, who was then the state representative from this area, was a critical and key figure in getting clean water started, but more importantly, bringing it to the attention of other local and state legislatures, to the point where many of us went up to Montgomery, where KIV signed a proclamation acknowledging our mission and acknowledging our organization. Now keep in mind, this was well before coal ash, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and mud dumping was really on anyone's radar. In fact, the organization Clean Water Alabama was preceded by an organization that we created called Our Bay Eastern Shore. And you would recognize a lot of the business people and community people that were involved in that. COVID came along and we kind of it died out, and at Joe Faust's urging, we reformulated it as Clean Water Alabama. Next slide. So approximately 50% of all the pollution that occurs in Alabama waterways is the result of stormwater runoff, and most of that is in the form of sanitary sewage overflows, which we commonly refer to as SSOs. Most of the problems in Fairhope are the result of decades of neglect and failure to replace and upgrade the city's wastewater collection system, which includes pipes, many of which are clay pipes, believe it or not. They dug up a clay sewage pipe in the middle of my street a few years ago, which had been compromised by roots from nearby trees. And also there was roughly 60, 70 lift stations throughout town that were failing and could not handle the capacity. And a lot of that has to do with when we have these big rain events, the water was migrating into the sewage collection system, which is not designed to deal with rainwater. And at these lift stations, there was about 7 of the major offenders. It would just overflow out of the lift station, get into our gullies, and end up in the bay. You may have seen over the last 2 or 3 days that probably one of the nation's largest sanitary sewage overflows that's ever occurred has occurred in the DC area in the Potomac River. Try to wrap your head around this number. 250 million gallons of raw sewage are spilling into the Potomac River. I have no idea what the lasting effect of that will be. And again, the reasons are the same as what we've experienced here. To give you a little historical perspective, the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, ADEM, sued the city of Fairhope for numerous discharges of untreated sewage into Mobile Bay that occurred between April 2015 and April 2020, totaling more than 2 million gallons. The settlement was reached in October of 2022 with a commitment by the city to significantly expand and upgrade its sewer infrastructure. The city has since undergone an aggressive multi-million-dollar infrastructure upgrade funded in large part by the Restore Act, which was BP money. And as a result of these efforts, primarily under the current administration and leadership, there's been a significant reduction in the number of SSOs. Some of you, including myself, may subscribe to ADEM's notification every time there's an SSO in our area. And I can tell you that, I mean, how many of you were here 7 years ago in the city? Well, you know, you would see 50,000 gallons, 20,000 gallons, 100,000 gallons of sewage after a rain event spilling into Mobile Bay. I need slide 3, John.
This is not it.
No, it's not.
Is that, so that's 2. Is it this one?
No. Keep going. It's before efforts.
All right, well,
Go back. It may not be in there. That's not in there. Okay, well, that's okay.
well, let's just go with,
I've got my notes.
all right, we'll go with the next one.
No, don't do that yet. I'm not done with my historical perspective. So in August of 2017, Daphne Utilities, over the weekend, over a 13-hour period, dumped more than 1 million gallons of raw sewage into Doe Leaf Creek, which many of you know dumps right into Mobile Bay. Mobile Baykeeper sued them in December of 2017, citing the Federal Clean Water Act and the State Water Pollution Control Act. In 2019, Daphne Utilities settled that lawsuit and promised to do better. This just came out in the news 2 weeks ago. On January 30th of this year, 2026, the former operations manager of the Pritchard water system pled guilty to fraud in a multi-layered scheme involving other board members and contractors. I think her share alone of the fraud was $2.5 million. Now, for those of you that don't keep up with the news, Pritchard has been one of the biggest offenders of dumping raw sewage into Mobile Bay. So, when you're dumping that amount of sewage into the bay, I don't need to explain to you the detriment that causes to all of us, including the natural life that thrives within. All right, so we can go to the next slide. So some of our initial efforts, and I should explain that there are a lot of great organizations doing great things, and I'm going to mention a few of those in a minute, and one of those is Savan Wilson. Where are you at, Savan? I'm going to ask her to speak in a moment. She's with the Coal Ash Action Group. There are a lot of great organizations doing things. We decided our niche should be informing people about what's going on. You know, for about 4 years or so, I would go to about every city council meeting when all this was going on, and there'd be 4 or 5 people. So people are busy. They don't necessarily have the time to stay informed on all this, but it was our belief that our niche should be just letting people know how serious and significant this problem is, because in theory, now this is theory, our elected officials are kind of supposed to do what the people they serve would like them to do. That's a theory. So our thought was, if you educate enough people, that they would influence those that are in a position to make decisions regarding protecting our clean water. So one of the things we did initially, and one of our members of Clean Water Alabama initially was a gentleman by the name of Joey Nunley. I don't know if any of you know him. Joey was at that time the county engineer for Baldwin County, and we assisted him and also Joe Faust obtain about $4 million in Go Mesa funds to help with the Magnolia River watershed to restore a sand pit, or actually 3 of them, along the Magnolia River that was silting along the river and into Weeks Bay. Go Mesa, those funds come from offshore oil and gas production that the state gets as part of that. And each year they allocate a certain amount to various environmental projects or various projects. Okay. One of our members, Teddy Faust, who you all know if you live in Fairhope because he's our tax assessor, Teddy drafted proposed legislation for a statewide septic tank replacement program. This proposed legislation would have established a fund to replace failing septic systems, which pose a risk to our waterways and can assist homeowners to convert to public wastewater systems where available. If you go down Morphy Avenue, still within the city limits, there are actually houses along Morphy Avenue that are on septic systems, and there's a sewer and water line running right from it. But it costs $10,000, maybe more, to tap into that. Not everyone can afford to do that or chooses to do that. If you'll remember, this goes back 2018, 19, there was a lot of concern about polluting of Fly Creek. And if you all remember that, they were trying to figure out what the source of that was. And it's amazing, that's a long time ago in my book. Just, I think about 2 city councils ago, they approved funding for dogs to sniff out E. coli, which I found amazing. But that also tells me they still haven't figured out what the root cause source is. I have my view on that, but I'm not a scientist. So we still have problems in our communities throughout the state, and certainly around here, where septic tanks do fail and they do leach into our waterway systems. All right, next slide, please. Early on, we determined that for us to speak intelligently as to what the public knows and what they expect in terms of clean waterways, Farron Hollinger, who is a former Baldwin County school superintendent, and through his contacts with the University of Alabama, we did a comprehensive public survey regarding the public's interest and concerns regarding water quality. And the reason that's important is because when you talk to our elected officials or government officials, you have to be able to cite what the public wants in this regard. And it's also important if you apply for grants. Slide number 7, there we go. And for the first couple of years, we would meet almost monthly, and we would have a pretty good turnout. There would be anywhere from 20, 30, 40 people from all walks of the spectrum in terms of how it touches our water quality. We've had several current county commissioners come to many of our meetings. We've invited several environmental experts to come to our meetings to inform us on some of the root cause issues and some of the science around all of this. And again, it was all to try to educate so that we could try to get a change, an informed change as to what was currently being done. So John is going to talk a little bit about what's turned out to be probably the most important and significant effort of our organization. And because of Wayne Miller and Grace. Wayne is a retired, is it 6th grade school teacher? And on his own, as we had formed the organization, he came to us one day, he says, I got 30 pages of kind of activities and coloring book things, and maybe we can use this. And it was, 30 pages, that's a lot. And so we looked at it and we said, wow, maybe we ought to separate that and create, and he'll talk about that. And he'll talk about how Grace was involved in that. So we decided our niche should be in educating young people. That was a niche that we felt that maybe we can add to that. A lot of these organizations that I'm going to mention, we're doing great in a lot of the other areas. For instance, Mobile Baykeeper, I suspect many of you, including myself and John, are members of Mobile Baykeeper. Mobile Baykeeper is the key organization that right now is taking on the coal ash fight. We haven't entered into that arena because we don't need to enter into that. They are well-funded, well-staffed, and have taken a very aggressive posture in trying to get resolution to getting that coal ash removed from its present location. Early on, we met with William Strickland, and they are the organization. If you have an opinion about wanting to see something done along those lines, I highly would encourage you to join them and contribute to them. There's South Alabama Land Trust. They actually go out and acquire wetlands to protect those areas that still remain that have not been developed. The Alabama River Alliance, most of you probably haven't heard of them. They're based out of, I think, Birmingham or Montgomery. I think it's Birmingham. And Cindy Lowry, who's the executive director, they kind of tie together all the different water keepers of the various rivers throughout Alabama. And they also have very aggressively pursued where they see violations occurring along the waterways. In fact, Cindy presented to us pretty early on in our organization. Some of you have seen the film Sally Ashes. Sally's Ashes kind of follows along the line of kind of a little bit of what we're trying to do, and that's to educate people. And Diane Thomas and Savan Wilson are still currently involved in that effort. And that film, I think, is taking it much broader and educating people on some of the challenges we have with coal ash just a few miles up the road. Do you want to say a few words about that, Savan, what's currently going on? And
another one of our team members, Kristen Coffin, is here as well. Diane couldn't come tonight. Clean water has so much to do with every bit of this too, so this is so important what he's telling us and the awareness they're spreading. The Sally's Ashes has been a key way that we can make more people aware all over the state. And we have the rights to show the film all over the state free. And we're doing that. It'll be back in Fairhope on May 3rd. It'll be in Daphne on April 22nd. March 3rd, sorry, thank you. She keeps me straight. March 3rd, it'll be here at 6 o'clock again. There's flyers out in the outside. April 22nd, it'll have an afternoon show, a morning showing for those who don't drive at night, and a 6 o'clock showing in Daphne at the Public Library in the city is doing that as a community event, which we're very pleased with. It'll be in Foley, April 30th, and so we're trying to really get Baldwin County. We appreciate so many of you that we know have supported this effort, and it makes a huge, huge difference. We have a good website you can go to, movetheash.com. So thank you, John, for giving us a chance to speak to that, but we appreciate everything you are doing about the water right in our bag right now.
well, absolutely. And Savan said something prior to the meeting, and you didn't see all of our mission statement, but the last line is that we are a non-political, nonpartisan organization, and that's important because this isn't political. I bet I could stop anyone on the street and say, do you want our waterways to be clean? And of course they would say yes. So you got to be careful when you do this, that you don't align yourself where it appears that you're political on one side or the other, because all you do is alienate people. This should unite people toward a common cause. And I've also learned a couple of other things. It takes many groups, many organizations, and many people to tackle this. There's no one organization that's going to solve all this. We've found kind of a small niche that we continue to work on, and John is going to talk in detail about that. And I also learned too, and it's easy to be cynical about our elected officials. I got to tell you, Baldwin County, I've been amazed when we formed how many of their officials, some elected, some appointed, would come to our meetings, because they care as much as we do, if maybe more, about this beautiful county and all of what water means. I mean, you have the Gulf on the southern end, and you got Fish River and Magnolia River, and you got the Bay, and so you can make a difference, and you can't assume that our officials know all about necessarily what's going on. The current effort in mud dumping, that's come to the attention of our senator, Katie Britt, and I think a lot is being done. Chris Elliott, who's a state senator, Alabama state senator, just passed. I think Kay Ivey just signed that, didn't it? That requires the Corps of Engineers to dispose of 70% of that the dredge material in a way that is not dumping it right back into the bay. So there certainly is an important role that our elected officials play, and I think I know early on that's where a lot of our effort went, is to try to engage them. And for the most part, not all, but I think for the most part, we found them receptive and engaging. So without any further ado, John is going to talk about our educational efforts.
We'll see if this works. Oh, yeah, there we go. Anyway, thanks, John. He said that we're non-political, and I think the real main point is that we all have children, grandchildren, friends. We all want clean water. There's nobody that is on this side or that side against clean water. And we also wanted to make sure that we were able to approach either side of an issue politically and talk to them about clean water, and they'd be receptive. And we found that with our organization, we have had very great success doing that. So I just wanted to mention that. John touched on it a little bit, but Clean Water made a decision about 3 years ago to focus on educating the general public, including our legislators, but more specifically focusing on our youth. And I remember when we made that decision, I kind of went back to the 1970s when they decided that they're going to do recycling. And I went to my parents and I said, hey, you're going to have to do recycling. Oh, Johnny, they're never going to do that. Forget that. Blah blah blah. Flash forward 40 years, and I'm over at my parents' house, and I'm drinking a Coke, and I'm getting ready to throw the can away. My dad goes, "No, Johnny, you got to put that in the recycle bin." So it does work, And what our hope is to grab the kids when they're younger and show them what the problem is with the bay, and then the solutions that will make the bay better. So let's see. Yeah. So this slide, we got to give credit to Coach Miller because he's a lifelong educator, and he suggested to us that we create an activity and coloring book and educate our youth. And as John said, he came with a big stack of paper and drawings and everything. And we said, let's divide it into two books, the activity book and a coloring book. So together with Grace Roberts, who is here. Grace, stand up and just, you don't have to talk, just stand up and say hi. When you see her work on these covers here are just amazing. In fact, I don't want to brag on her too much, but Disney was impressed even, so congratulations on that. Anyway, we created the activity and the coloring books and designed that were designed to engage and educate first through sixth graders to learn about the various forms of pollution and the potential solutions for these. To the next slide. Oops. Oh, well, maybe I've covered up something here. Just a second here. Oh, wait. Oh, okay, so. Okay. Where are we? Oh, yeah. So Coach Miller also created a teacher's syllabus, and together with the books, we distributed approximately 10,000 copies of the coloring books and the activity books together. The coloring books went to all first through third graders, and the activity books went to fourth through sixth graders throughout our entire Baldwin County School District. And we did that for 2 years in a row. And we were able to do that because, number one, through Farron Hollinger, he introduced us to the head of the school district, and they said, this is a fantastic idea. And we funded it and distributed the books to them.
How many copies?
Over 10,000, yeah. Does that not say that on there? Okay, well, okay. Yes.
This is what I was talking about with Grace. I just said they're at this camp, and they come from all over Alabama, and this is just, she just came up with this idea down there, and they all got a gold medal, and they're just from all walks, from all over. So.
You're absolutely right. And now I don't have to go through it anymore. But yes, the Camp Clean Water was our next book. And it was a book about 5 students who learn about the challenges facing, wait, there's actually 6 students there. Okay, well, it's a book about 6 students.
One of them dropped out.
Oh, one of them dropped out, yeah, that's funny, yeah. Anyway, the book was designed to, for people reading it, for the students reading it, to see what the problems were in a sort of a fanciful way, with illustrations by Grace, and also solutions. So they went and created science projects and presented it at a science fair, and as Wayne said, they all got gold medals. Congratulations to them. Now, I think I got to see where I am on the slides here. Let me see here. Yeah, okay, so you can sort of see the different ideas of the slides. She just did a great job. And the book is very, very engaging. And it shows the real world solutions to cleaning up the pollution problem. And as a little plug, the book is available on our website, cleanwateralabama.com. So don't forget that.
Or on Amazon.
Or on Amazon, true, yes. Now, Alan, you probably like this. Oops, never mind. So in partnership, why did I miss that? What is that? In partnership with the Sunset Rotary Club, Clean Water Alabama created a placemat with Crayolas for kids to color and learn about cleaning and maintaining the waterways. And the Rotary distributed this to over 80 restaurants throughout the greater Fairhope Eastern Shore area. And I remember we didn't really know that you had done it yet, Mike. Yeah, Mike is with the Sunset Rotary Club, yes, and it's yeah. Judy and I forget which restaurant we were in, but we were in one of the restaurants, and all of a sudden we saw these kids coloring these placemats at the table. It was really. Do I?
Passport. No, we had one on the placemat.
Well.
Back up.
We don't. So anyway, that was a great project, and I think we've been talking about doing it again. So that's kind of exciting. Okay, now here, Alan. Clean Water Alabama has sponsored for the past 3 years the annual coastal cleanup with coastal Alabama colleges. What happens is they get an enormous amount of students, maybe 40, maybe. Do you think, Alan? 40, 50?
Yes, 40, 50,
Yeah. And they go out and clean up the city, and we just think it's a great idea to be in front of these young people in the colleges and let them know about clean water and what they can do to help make it better.
For those of you that know Coach Miller here, he's been a student there for about 10 years. The equivalent of degrees.
Yeah.
And I asked him before the meeting, I said, are you always going to be a student there? He shook his head.
Oh, he's a lifelong learner. Yeah, that's what it is, yeah.
They just scheduled April the 8th is when they'll be doing this year.
Oh, okay. Great. Well, then we'll see you on April the 8th. Great. Let's see if this... Oh, there's the place, Matt. The slides got in it. Okay. So, anyway, you can see it's engaging. And you know what's really nice is we saw these kids coloring these things and they weren't looking at their phones, which makes a big difference. Yeah. Now, we also, the board of directors voted to award a scholarship for environmental students at Coastal College. 2 $500 scholarships would be awarded to students who are studying to help clean up our waterways. And again, it's another way to get young people involved with the effort to clean up the clean water, and we think it's a good way to give back to the community to encourage the studying of environmental issues. Now, our latest project was inspired again by Coach Miller. It is the story of how 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's 7 kids, if I'm correct.
Don't count the captain.
Yeah, okay, yeah, the captain. But we have the Porch Creek Indian, right, in this book, right? Anyway, it's a story of how 6 kids take a boat ride out of Blakely State Park. And through this ride with the Delta, they learn about the amazing diversity of the fauna and wildlife through experience and seeing it firsthand. And as you can see, the book is called The Delta Kids. This book is designed to educate students about the amazing diversity of our Delta. And it was dubbed the American Amazon. And it is the most ecologically diverse region outside of the Amazon forest in Brazil. And it's such a state treasure to have this Delta. And the idea was that we would create the book and expose the kids to knowing just what an amazing atmosphere, or what's the right word? Environment. Thank you, John. What an amazing environment we have. It is beautifully written. Coach Miller wrote it and illustrated by Grace Roberts. This is one of the most visually beautiful books that I've ever published. And you can see why. I mean, she just this is John's favorite. This is John's favorite picture.
Beautiful that text.
Yeah.
Delta. It's great. There's several other beautiful illustrations in the book. And when we're done, I welcome you to come up and look through both the Delta kids and the Clean Water kids. And yes, ma'am.
Where can you get the Delta Kids? Is it on Amazon as well?
It is.
Yes. Yeah.
If you up here, if you have cash or a check, you can buy them as well.
Yeah.
But I just want to look through them as well.
So as I mentioned, it was written by Coach Miller and illustrated by our own Grace Roberts. In this particular book, we went a step further. We approached the University of Alabama and asked them to partner with us so that we could learn more about the diversity of the Delta and include that information in the book. And they were so excited about seeing the book that they helped create a teacher syllabus, a 30-page teacher syllabus, quite involved, which is now part of the Delta Kids, and we will be approaching schools later this year to see if we can get that in the classrooms. And one of the things, I don't know if John mentioned this, but we approached the STEM teachers throughout the Baldwin County schools and showed them our different products and offerings. They were quite excited about it, and they were really a big spearhead in getting us into the classrooms.
And we provided this copy, many of you probably have
Yeah.
this, bid rating savings, American Renaissance. We provided one for each of the classrooms.
Yeah.
You don't have that, you should have that.
So we'll do this. Good news, the passage of the Joe Fowl Shoreline Restoration Act. And John already took my thunder on that deal, so I don't have to go any further on that. But I will say that when I lived on the bay, did I just kill this thing? Oh, man.
What's the last slide?
No, okay, you can see it there. Oh, wait, what? Okay. Anyway, when I lived on the bay, there was no grass in the water at all. It was just plain sand. And somebody, in fact, Mike Herzog mentioned that he was talking to an old timer and said that, you know, the bay started going downhill when the grass got covered up with soot and silt. So if we can get an effort to replant the bay with that parallel with the drudge not being dumped into the bay, I think we have a chance. So, yes.
I think Mobile Baykeeper has that as one of their initiatives as well.
Yeah, they're a great group. I mean, we fully support them, so we don't want to say anything about that, anything bad about them. They're a great group. So I messed up the slideshow, I'm sorry. But the last slide would have said, what is the future of clean water, Alabama? And our future is we're going to continue our education outreach to young adults in order to help assure they become good stewards of our waterways. And I guess, you know, not to hammer it too hard, but it's the youth, it's the young people that are growing up that's going to become the next generation that's really going to make the difference. I mean, you know, John and I kid around like we're old folks, you know.
We are.
The John and John show here, you know. But really, I place a lot of hope in the future of Clean Water Alabama in the hands of the youth, and through them, you know, their efforts. And we're already seeing that the legislatures and the government people are making an effort. So I think combining the two will be very, very important.
Yeah, and on that note, you know, I want to kind of end on a positive note. We can take some questions as well. This started by just a couple of people.
Actually, us.
And I don't know how you measure success. I really don't. But what I can tell you now is your current city administration has done a phenomenal job of accelerating a lot of these projects. The reason over the last 30, 40, 50 years this infrastructure was not upgraded, it's more fun to look at flowers, right? Who wants to spend $15, $20 million to upgrade a sewer? Nobody. We didn't have the revenue to do it, so you got to go out and get bonds or borrow. So, you know, it's hard to say that anyone's at fault. It just was not a priority until it became too late. And unfortunately, the last couple of administrations, it really came to a head on their watch. It wasn't necessarily their fault. But again, on a positive note, 6, 7 years ago, every time it rained, man, I'd go, I'm not going out in that bay today. I'm just not going to. Whereas it just doesn't happen now. If it does, it's very infrequent. So what little part we had in helping educate people and pushing that along, I don't know. But I think it helped a little bit. We still have some big problems out there, and you know what they are, and Savannah's group is involved, and to me, one of the biggest problems, one of the biggest threats that we have, as well as the mud dumping that goes along. So one or two people joined by others that have a common interest can I think, make a difference. And it's really what's needed. If you just rely on your elected officials to solve all your problems, you'll be waiting a long time. This is our community, each one of us, and you should take an interest in it, and I'm sure all of you in here do, or you wouldn't be here tonight. We'd be happy to take any.
I got one last little thing, John.
All right. Is it a prize?
No, we'd like to thank each and every one of you that have come out here, and we would like to also invite you to donate to our nonprofit efforts to educate our youth. Yeah, we gotta ask, right? It's through generous donations from concerned Eastern Shore citizens like you that help us keep our efforts moving ahead. And so far, we have been able financially to donate, these thousands and thousands of books to the school district. We'd like to keep that going. And I guess self-serving, we even have a few sponsorship activities on the books. So just think about it. Maybe you have friends or something that would be interested. So on that note, John, should I just say, is there any one last thing you wanted to say?
I just want to point out that we didn't mention her tonight, Deborah Bruin of the Fairhope Soap Company. She actually made some clean water soaps and sold them in her store and donated to our organization based on the sales. Danny, is it Manning?
Manning.
Yeah, who was a former owner of the Fairhope Piggly Wiggly, made a very substantial donation to us early on, actually through Mike Dudley's friendship. The Fairhope Rotary Club, what's the evening one? Sunset Rotary Club made donations. The Daphne Rotary Club made donations. So we were fortunate early on to get some pretty nice donations that all went to doing all this, making these.
Yeah, nobody takes a salary, nobody gets reimbursed for anything. So, so anyway, again, I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight. We're open for questions, and I'll turn it over to you. And should I start? John, yeah. Thank you.
Any questions for Grace or Wayne as well?
Yeah.
Is there a list of corporate bad guys that are dumping water into the waterways that we have?
Not that we keep.
Yeah.
No. One thing I found early on when we formed, if you go to Mobile Baykeepers, their website, there are countless publications and papers they've written on various issues affecting Mobile Bay. They're a great resource.
When you were giving your presentation, you talked about the public utilities and sewers and runoff and so forth. There is a law that allows them to put a certain amount of material during a rainstorm into the water stream based on the projected flow and amount that's going to go down the river or the tributary.
I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of that.
You're not aware of that?
No.
Okay.
Do you know what that is?
ADEM would have that number, that amount that's allowed by any municipality. I just know when I was in Dalton, Georgia, the carpet capital of the world, they had to clean up their own water, the factories, before they turned it in to the public sewage system. So the water was cleaner when it went out before it came in.
Wow.
So they made a big turnaround in North Georgia.
A lot of chicken ranches up there that dump a lot of things that they shouldn't be dumping.
The Chesapeake Bay is really a great success story, which we're kind of modeling after. It was very, very polluted, and through a number of different programs they put in place.
Oyster replenishment.
Yeah, oyster replenishment, which the Grand Hotel's doing.
Good question.
As far as the city of Fairhope, we only have one sewage treatment plant.
That's correct.
So everything from all of Fairhope goes into that one facility by the elementary school.
That's correct.
And then it all dumps straight into Mobile Bay after being treated.
When it's cleaned.
sometimes when it's not.
I wouldn't use that word. Treated, would you swim in it?
There are people that do swim in it.
No. I'm talking about where the sewage is dumped. The treated sewage.
Well, it goes about-
Is it 600 feet off?
I think it's 1,000 feet, I'm not real sure.
What?
I think it's 1,000 feet, but don't hold me to that number. You know, I attended a tour of Riviera Utilities, of their treatment facility.
You said Foley?
Yeah, in Foley, Riviera Utilities. Plant manager gave a tour. And, you know, I always thought they had a bunch of chemicals to clean up all of it. Not out there. It's all done by, they put in tanks and let solar power energy clean some of that. I forget the exact terminology. UV? Yeah, UV, that's fine. And this blew my mind. At the very end of the process, they went to this pipe out there. It was going out in the creeks to clean effluent. That took, that's not
This is not there.
No, this is in Foley. And that's, I took his word for it. You know, as far as Fairhope, and I can't speak exactly, I've actually asked this question to Mayor Wilson. So, the current treatment facility, I think, is at about half capacity, if not less than that. And they are currently planning to add to that to give it more capacity. So I think what the city will tell you is they have plenty of capacity to treat. The problem, I think,
It's the sewage treatment.
The sewage
Not including stormwater.
well, they don't treat stormwater. It goes in the gullies and it goes right out. The only thing they treat is
I thought the stormwater was under retention of some sort, where you couldn't drain fuel oil and all the stuff on the street straight into that.
goes straight through the gullies. The problem you have is you have either force main or gravity that gets all the sewage from the far reaches of East Fairhope all the way down to the treatment plant. And so you have 60 or 70 lift stations that actually pump to get there. Now, I would have thought it would be more efficient to, years ago, to build the treatment plant in East Fairhope by the airport or whatever. According to the mayor, that it's actually more economical to upgrade the existing facility than it would be to build a brand new treatment plant. She's a lot smarter than I am on these things, but that's what I've been told. But they do have the capacity. It's not the capacity that's created the issues of the treatment plant. It's the collection system that has failed over the years. But, you know, the last 2 years, you can drive down any street here and they're not digging them up. And they're not digging them up quite as much as I think most of that, the main ones have been replaced. So, is it to say it's perfect now? Probably not, but I think it's far, far better than it was before.
And it also, there has been far, far fewer discharges the last couple of years.
Yeah, I get those notices every time, and I can't remember what, I mean, there have been some very small ones, but I haven't seen anything that's significant. Yes, sir?
You mentioned cities on the eastern shore, Fairhope, Athens, and the North Ocean. What about the deal on the western shore? Are there any issues there?
Well, there were, and that predates me. I moved here in 2012. Maybe some of you here can, you know, MAWS, which is the Mobile Water Sewer Works, I think they were under a decree. They went into a consent decree to under, not receivership, but oversight. And I don't know who the oversight was, the government or whatever, but that was a significant problem in Mobile. You don't see a lot in Mobile proper anymore with their sewage system overflow. You do see it in Prgresss. And God knows why they haven't corrected that. I don't know. But any major rain event Richard routinely. Of course, when you're indicting the head of the operation. That'd be one of the reasons.
We're having new mayor, so that's hopefully.
Yeah. Any other? Oh, Paul.
We should be very concerned about sewage discharge because it really gets people's attention. The thing that I see of equal importance, and John, I see you out paddleboarding in the morning from my deck, and I wave, and I have a cup of coffee.
I haven't seen you later.
But I'm a couple of piers south of the town here, and after a heavy rain, water in front of my dock is a bright brown.
Oh, yeah.
And it's coming from the runoff down the streets that bypasses the sewage treatment. And I'm concerned about the recharge of the aquifer where we draw water, because every time I'm at the corner of Reno Road and Fairhope, I look around, there isn't a blade of grass for a quarter of a mile in either direction. Everything is paved between Piggly Wiggly and late Great Winn-Dixie. And it's acres and acres and acres. And when it rains, that water is not going to the aquifer. It's being shunted off to sewage systems and carrying everything with it, not sewage. And I applaud the no mud dumping. It's a great thing, but we're dumping an awful lot of silt.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how to address that.
Yeah, that is an enforcement issue. And as we grow as a city in these developments, particularly in the county, that's a big issue. In fact, interesting fact, when our Bay Eastern Shore kind of phased down due to COVID, the reason we started up Clean Water Alabama, Joe Faust called me one day and he said, John, I've got constituents in Weeks Bay that there's areas they can't even get their boat in and out of because of the silt. He said, we need to do something about it. And so it was out of his urging that we kind of formed Clean Water Alabama over that whole issue of silting. And as I mentioned, that $4 million Go Mesa project, there were mud pits, sand pits along the Magnolia River that they were taking sand out for presumably housing and development. They were just silting all along the Magnolia River and eventually into Weeks Bay. So to be honest with you, I used to see it more down by the gullies near where the pier is at a big rain event. It'd be red. I haven't seen that lately. Doesn't mean it's not occurring anywhere else. But you're right. Silting is still a problem.
Yeah, because that very area you're talking about is where the city is double the stormwater dumping and with no stormwater retention as far as any of the streets like Fairhope Avenue, or Fells Avenue, or White Avenue, they all just go straight to the bay.
It does. Yeah.
And everything from those highways, those roads, are part of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Including on the construction, where there is no retention for any of the construction either, to prevent the water from carrying the dirt out.
When I paddleboard in the morning, there's two big round stormwater drains that dump right into the bay. Is it Big Mouth Gully? I probably have no idea.
Well, the one right by the pier has two.
Yeah, what's that? Was that Big something?
That stacks going in.
And then there's the other one up by the American Legion, which is Tatumville Gully. But I can tell when I'm in the water, you can tell after a rain event if it's discoloring. I just haven't seen that as much lately. And I don't know if the building is farther out now, east, and that's why I'm not seeing it, or if there's better enforcement. I don't know, but I haven't seen it.
I see it every day.
Do you? Wow.
Right on with that. Especially Fairhope Avenue and Fells Avenue, which are huge stormwater retention drains. We both have those doubled. They've just doubled when they used to be single.
Yeah.
I think it's almost straight up 7 o'clock, and Wayne said we had to stop at 7.
He didn't say that.
Yeah, he did.
Oh,
Yeah, he did.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much.
It's interesting. Basically, if the switch